Hey, Part Dreaming. Thank you guys for joining us on this final morning of the event. For those of you who are joining us today for Manufacturing Day, welcome. We have 3 amazing speakers today joining us from the manufacturing space to provide some great firsthand insights on using the platform. So with that, I'm going to let our speakers today take it over and introduce you guys to Sika.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are super excited to be part of Par Dreaming, and we are so thrilled to be able to share our story of how we took webinars and scaled it across the region from Canada all the way down to Chile in order to see magnificent growth for all of our different countries. My name is Tina Katic-Mikolos, and I am the Director of Digital Operations and Customer Experience at Sika US. And the next few minutes is going to be all about webinars and Pardot, of course, and exactly what we did in order to streamline the entire process to be able to run a ton of webinars, generate a lot of leads, and really do it with limited resources. But first, a little bit about Sika. Sika is a specialty chemical company, and we manufacture products for the construction, residential, industry manufacturing, and automotive market. So roofs, floors, and everything in between that you need in order to keep a building or machinery or a car safe and sound and sustainable. So we're part of a large variety of different projects. You've probably driven over a bridge that has Sika products in it, or have been in some kind of underground tunnel that is protected and waterproofed with Sika. If you've taken a cruise ship, you might have been on a ship that has been sealed entirely with Sika products. So it's really cool for us that we get to be part of all these really diverse projects. But that also means that we have a very diverse target audience. So we go after architects, engineers, contractors, product designers, and even homeowners, right? Anyone who owns a home or a boat and is in need of repair, we have the products for you. And all of our target audience, they have different pain points and they get different needs. So we have Pardot to help us segment our audiences so that we can really talk to the specific pain points that addresses a particular target audience, since they're all interested in different things. One of the main things that we do is do educational and training sessions with our customers. And this is really important, right? Because if we're going to be part of this massive structure like a bridge, there's a lot of different stakeholders that are involved in it. And so it's really important to understand how our products are going to participate in that design, how they're going to be sustainable and be able to help the project be really successful. So there's a lot of education that goes into that. And before we had Pardot, before we had webinars, our sales rep would do this one-on-one, office by office, and everything was really, really manual and a lot of paperwork. And it was actually a lot of work on our sales reps to have to manage all the registrations and attendance and certifications. They had to do their own follow-up. They had to schedule their own webinars. It was a lot of work. And none of it made it into the CRM, so we really had no idea what our return on investment was. So we started to bring in Pardot and take these educational and training sessions and streamline them to make it a much smoother process for everyone all around. So what we decided to do is we connected Webex to Pardot so that we could have registration and attendance come in real time, flow through Pardot without us having to do any import or export. And at the same time, we could send it straight into Salesforce, which meant that our sales rep had real-time information right at his fingertips on who was going to be attending his webinar. So before the pandemic, we ran about 1 webinar per quarter. Because everything was connected to Pardot and Salesforce, the entire process was streamlined and everything was going really smooth. There was a lot of automation that was happening, including the follow-up. We could do the follow-up also within Pardot and also send out our certifications. So we took away a lot of the administrative work and on the sales rep and streamlined them with the help of our tech stack. And because it all lived in the Salesforce ecosystem, we can now finally realize if there are any projects that were coming out of these webinars. But then the pandemic hit, and luckily we had laid down the foundation with Pardot and Webex so that we could schedule all of our in-person events that had been scheduled already, and we were able to convert them into webinars. So in the midst of the pandemic, we're running 60 to 80 webinars per week with the same exact resources we had before. Because everything was streamlined and automated and enabled us to do that. We would have never been able to do that without the help of our tech stack and having laid down that foundation ahead of time. What that meant is when the pandemic hit and our sales reps could no longer be in person with our customers, they were able to continue building their relationships, going through the sales process, all because of the help of what we've done with the webinars. There was no stoppage in their sales process. They could just keep running with it. But now that we're kind of through the pandemic, still a little bit in it, but we're kind of through it, we now have a more regular schedule going on with our webinars. We run 2 public webinars per week, including some training events, and we have a really, really steady registration and a really good attendance. On average, we have more than 50% of an attendance rate, which is really great because these webinars, they're very valuable to our customers. Another thing that we started to do after we got through the pandemic is we actually converted some of our training events into webinars. So we took a 6-hour training event, which is essentially an entire day, and turned it into a 2-hour webinar. Imagine the time saving to our customers to be able to just spend 2 hours and get the same kind of training they used to get, having to travel to a physical location and having to spend an entire day there. And all of this is still working within our foundation of Pardot, Webex, and Salesforce, where we're streamlining the whole process, except there's a lot more hands-on kind of sessions and videos going on. And later on down the end of this presentation, you'll hear more about Olivier and what they've done in Canada, where they took an entire event and turned it into a series of webinars. We also started to do a lot of account-based marketing with webinars now that we're through the pandemic and are running 60 to 80 webinars a week, where we could invite our large-scale accounts and run a webinar that was specifically for them. So across the nation, all the offices, but just for one account. And it's very personal, and it helps our sales rep get really good interaction and really build a strong relationship with these national accounts that are in diverse areas across the region. So now I'm super happy to pass things over to David, who's going to walk you through what he's done in Latin America to see some magnificent growth.
Thanks so much, Tina. Hi, everyone. My name is David, and I'm leading Pardot for Sika Latin America region. We are the biggest Pardot region in our brand, with 16 countries working with the tool, generating more than 100 new prospects a day, and launching an average of 12 different Pardot campaigns per week. And this time, I'm going to show you how we handle the webinar campaign across Latin America. We started with the webinar campaign in early 2019. The first time we did was take it regionally and then define the whole strategy for the region. As Tina mentioned, we are a big company with many different markets, products, and target audiences. So it's key for us to define a well-structured strategy to offer the correct contents in webinar format to the correct audiences. And it's also key to define well the channels where we are going to promote them to reach out to that specific audiences. Then we take the second step, that was to enable each country to make their own webinars and drive into the regional strategy. since there are more than 16 countries in Latam, and we have a huge amount of work to train all the local marketing teams, set up all the tools, create all the automations, and then let them fly alone with their own webinars country by country. But in the meantime, we just realized a small but big detail is that we all speak the same language, Spanish. So maybe we can take that as an advantage and create something different. And this is how borns the regional webinars. But what is a regional webinar? Is one single Sika expert presenting one single webinar, but getting attendees from 18 more countries. So taking advantage of speaking the same language, we can get a huge impact in the whole region with one single effort. Let's see in detail some data about that. With the local webinars, each country has to prepare his own webinar. Each one of them with his Sika expert to present it. Each one of them with the local teams to manage, create, promote the webinar, the campaign, all part of automations and all of that. Having 16 different webinars is in total more than 100 of work of all that teams together. Then for a regional webinar, we just need one single Sika expert, a single team working on the preparation of the webinar, on the promotion, and creating all the pilot automations. It's more or less a total of 7 hours of work. And as you can see, having a regional webinar, it's much more interesting than organizing local webinars. So we took it from there and we started preparing a schedule of regional webinars to impact our target, no matter the country where they are. In addition, we've been very successful implementing new social media formats like these cartoon videos we created for each webinar. The clicks and the reach we got in our social media channels were the biggest in our brand's history for LATAM. We got more than 800,000 views, more than 300,000 clicks, promoting these regional webinars across all social media channels in LATAM was great and it worked very good. And let's see some results. Between January 2019 and January 2020, before the pandemic, we organized only 6 webinars. Was the beginning for us, but we got 7,000 new leads. But in compare, since January 2020, we organized almost 300 webinars, and that content has generated more than 50,000 new leads, which is a 540% increase in lead generation amount coming from webinars. So these great numbers are reflecting how great can we do if we align in a same strategy and if we offer a great content to our customers. Hope you find it insightful. Now I pass it to Olivier, who is going to show you how great they did it in Canada.
Thank you, David. All right. My name is Olivier Courchain. I'm the marketing director for Sika Canada. And today I'm going to talk to you about Sika Day, an event that we're doing in Canada and that we started to do basically virtually started last year. So basically, Sika Day, the traditional event, is the biggest event for us in the year at Sika Canada. So we do it twice a year, sometimes once, and we bring all the business unit from the company there. So people from roofing, people from the concrete division, people from commercial construction, all our divisions are there. And basically, we will get about 300 to 400 participants every time. So construction industry, architects, engineers, contractors, distributors, all our customers. And of course, all these people, they are coming in to know about our new innovations and all the expertise that our team has, but also to collect some educational credits. For those who don't know, okay, for architects or for engineer, in order to keep their certification, they have to do some continuing education hours every. And basically, these presentations that we're giving are giving them some of these hours of training that they are looking for. So that's another reason for them to come. Basically, it also includes everything that is a physical event would include. So a venue, staff, lunch, cocktail at the end, shows in the middle of the day, things like this. There's about two major advantages of doing that event. The first one is because versus a traditional trade show where we're there with all the other the competition. In a Sika day, it's only Sika. So we have our customers all for ourselves. We have their attentions all for ourselves. The other biggest advantage is that because we are in so many areas of the industry, that when, let's say, a roofing rep will bring a customer from roofing, they will now see that we are also in all these other divisions, concrete, or that we're also doing flooring or products for building finishing. So a comment that we often have is, oh, we didn't know you were doing all these other things. Now I'm interested in looking in all these other products from Sika. So it's a great tool to upsell, and basically it shows to our customer that we can be a one-stop shop for them. So it's a huge event, and our reps are loving it. So basically the pandemic's it. And our representatives, they are asking us, is there an alternative? Can we still do that event? So we looked into doing it virtually. So it was kind of a big challenge because we had to do 16 presentations in one day and 12 product demonstration, just like in a real physical Sika day. Everything would be run in 3 parallel rooms during the day, so simultaneously. And then we would have about 30 industry experts. Some of them would present, some of them would be there live to answer Q&A questions live during the events. And basically all in one day. So there was a lot of things to prepare in advance, making sure that everyone would be set up and all. And like in a real event where we were able to collect donations for charities, we were able to have a lunch organized for our customers using Uber Eats vouchers that we've sent for lunch. And we had big draws and prizes at the end of the day. But basically to do that, we needed a platform, something to glue all of this together, to help us with the communication and also to make it easy for our customers to attend. So basically we bought that domain, sikaday.com, and then we hosted our whole website for the event on it. So we would have the schedule for all the presentations, all the presenters' biographies, the descriptions of every presentations, and all the Webex links to register, but also to attend, because we didn't want to assume that the synchronization between the registration and your Outlook calendar or your calendar would be perfect. So we wanted to have a way for the customer to go back on the website the day of the event and being able to join from there as well. And then with Webex, it was pretty easy because Webex had a native connection with Pardot that was already set up by our team in the US. So then during the day, actually, on the next slide, we're going to see that during the day, we would try to combine a presentation in the morning, which would be more theory, and then having in the afternoon or a little bit later, a product demonstration that would be related to it. So let's say in this case, we would have, let's say, a presentation about shotcrete, tunneling, and mining and our products and all. And then at the end of the presentation, we would say, stay tuned, because later today, we're going to also have a demonstration on the equipment that we've just presented to you. And basically, this would we were trying to give the same feeling of someone spending the whole day with us. Okay, so we were trying to find ways of keeping them there interested and having them and keep them for the whole day. And now the interesting part for everyone, how did we collected leads with that? Basically, we can go back to the other slide, Tina, please. Basically, with surveys at the end of every presentation. So that's really how we were able to get value for sales value for a representative. So we would end up a webinar, we would send a small pop-up survey that would just say, were you interested by the solutions that you've seen in today's presentation? And if people would say yes, then we would have follow-up questions asking them, okay, do you know what project you would like to use that solution on? When will you be in that construction phase where you will need that product? And basically, if they would tell us this information, we would also ask them, would you like at that stage of the construction to be contacted by one of our reps? And a lot of them were happy to give us these leads. So basically, with that, since it was Pardot Farms, it was all funneled in our lead processing workflow that we already had in Salesforce. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We already had that structure in place for all the leads that are coming in from our website and that are being treated by our marketing people. So qualifying them and then dispatching them to the sales team through Salesforce. So that whole event just flow in that already installed lead processing workflow. So it was really easy to maintain. So now the results, basically with that one day event, we were able to triple our attendance, because now we were not only doing the event in one city in Canada, but we had people from coast to coast joining. So we had about 900 participants, and we were able to give 2,300 hours of training in one day, which is incredible for us. Basically, it costed us also about 10% of what a real event would cost, a physical event would cost. And basically, it generated about 300 leads, which is almost the equivalent of a month and a half of leads that we usually collect from our website in only one day. And then it also added up hundreds of opt-in contacts to our Pardot database. And the most important thing, of course, we had after that hundreds of happy customers who learned about all our innovations, and basically were able to get all these hours of trainings. So that's about it for Sika Day. I'm going to pass it on again to Tina, who's going to be talking about tips for success.
Thank you, Olivier, and thank you, David. Super inspiring. I know we've been very inspired with everything that you guys have put in place too. So here's our tips for success. Explore your possibilities with your existing tech stack and all of your existing resources. We had Pardot in place already. Salesforce was the place for sales for our sales team. And so taking Webex and webinars and connecting it to the two really helped us enable fast, quick turnarounds, get everybody on the same page, make alignments, and automate a lot of our process. Customized messaging to address your audience pain point. As I mentioned, and as David and Olivier mentioned, we have a very diverse target audience. And we had to make sure that we were able to segment them so we could talk to each of their pain points and what they were going to get out of these presentations or webinars or training sessions, because they all would be caring about different things. And so we didn't have one mass email. We really segmented it to the target audience so we could talk specifically to their pain points. What was a key to success for us was aligning with our sales team right from the beginning, because they were our best advocates. They created the presentation. They truly are industry experts in their topics. And so when we streamlined these webinars, when we streamlined these events, we could allow them to just focus on their presentation, focus on getting people to the event, while we did all the back-end stuff with the technology and the different kinds of resources that we had in place to do it. Try a variety of different topics. We all know what our popular topics are. For us, we always thought that the educational sessions were the most popular. The ones where people would get credit are the only ones where we could get attendance. But when we started to throw in hands-on demos and non-credit sessions that were really product specific and training events, we still had a really great attendance rate. And some of those are more popular than our educational sessions. So don't be afraid to try out some different types of sessions and try to see what else your audience might be interested in, how else you could be engaging with them. And prioritize your follow-up to keep the conversation going. Olivier talked about the surveys and the lead process. When you have so many people coming to your webinars, registering and attending, it is really important to help the sales team and or your inside sales team prioritize on who to follow up with first. So you could use surveys or different forms, like different Pardot forms, in order to ask some questions that help prioritize the follow-up and then trigger things in the back end to help the sales team know who's the hot lead, who's more priority to be followed up on. And lastly, try to automate all your data flow into one centralized place. But for us, that's Salesforce, because marketing is in Salesforce, sales is in Salesforce, and even our tech service team is in Salesforce. So we can have a 360 view on the customer. We understand, what they're ordering, or we can understand what projects they got going on. At the same time, we know which webinars they're attending, which emails they're engaging with, And if there's any issues that arise, it can all be flagged on the same account. And to have it all in the same place where we're all in it together was really a key to success, to be able to have transparency, communication between all of our different departments and the entire organization. So thank you so much for your time today. We really hope you enjoyed it, and we're happy to take questions if there are any.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We did have a few questions. Questions I'm curious from my standpoint. I think the first one is just being able to expand a little bit on how to track prospects, contacts, attending and registering for multiple webinars. Do you have this mapping to unique custom fields, or how are you guys handling that?
Well, so the native connection with Pardot and Webex, it will put this straight on the engagement history, and that way we have full view of the different webinars that they're attending. But also because of the connection that we have between Pardot and Webex, we can draw different kinds of dynamic lists to see how are people attending if we wanted to do something really specific to that.
Awesome. Another question that came up, you guys had talked through some huge success, you, David, specifically on ramping up the webinars. Is there anything that you can pinpoint or say that really attributed to that large success that you found?
Well, to be honest, I think our content is very interesting for our publics because some of our products are very technical. So there is a lot of people who really wants to know how to use a product or a system to do their work good. And when everyone was at home because of the pandemic, we put that very interesting content on webinars, and we found this huge amount of people who really want to see how this Sika product works. So I think this is why we've been very successful because of the two things. People was at home, but also our content is very, very interesting because sometimes it's very technical.
Awesome. Kind of on the note of that, obviously moving from, it seems like your audience was more accustomed to in-person, and then now switching from in-person to digital or webinars. Were there any challenges that you guys face with getting your audience on board with that and getting them engaged?
Yeah, I think at the beginning it was a little strange, but with the pandemic, there was just no possibility to be in person. And so, Olivier talked about this a lot, like these educational credits. They're kind of like the badges in Trailhead, right? We continue to get our badges so that we're showing that we're training and learning more about Salesforce or Pardot, different platforms. Our audience is the same way. They need these educational credits, and offering them online was actually something that they found really valuable. So we had a really, really great attendance, and we didn't struggle too much to get them to attend. And even now, like in the US, we do 2 webinars a week, and we've done this all year long. Since January, we've had 2 webinars a week, and we still continue to have hundreds of people attending. Maybe because of the educational credits, maybe because they want to get more in detail of the technical, or it's just convenient for them to do it from home.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
If I can add up to that, one way that we did it to keep people engaged in Canada is we would always have, let's say, an expert who would be giving the presentation, but we would also always have an expert on hold answering Q&A question live during the event. So then people would, we would talk about many topics and sometimes not go too much in detail, but we would always have that person on the side taking care of all the Q&A and following up with everyone. And we would advertise that when we would communicate about our webinars, and we would tell our audience that there will be someone answering your questions right during the webinar. And some of them were really complex, and basically that was a lot of added value. And even if we couldn't finish answering the question, because as you probably see in construction, it can be pretty long to give an explanation on what membrane to use for your roof or things like this. Well, we would follow up with the person after the event by email, and sometimes it would lead to giving us a great lead for ourselves. So it was all a win-win situation.
Yeah, I think that having that extra piece of the digital side, being able to have that one-to-one and get your answers, your questions answered, has been a huge success that we've been seeing across the board. You mentioned, Tina, at the end here that aligning with the sales team was a big key to making sure that you got the right message and content out for your audience. Are there any advice that you can give to the audience here about creating that alignment, or anything that you guys experienced along the way?
Yeah, it's just like talking to our target audience. We really have to understand what the pain points were for our sales team. And so when we came to them to propose webinars, and this is before the pandemic, right? So it's not like they were in need of having to do this. But when we came to them to present the idea and wanting to partner with them, it made a lot of sense, right? We're eliminating administrative work for you. We're going to streamline it. We're going to help you prioritize. And we're really going to expose it to a larger audience so you get more face time. And so with each one of the sales teams and the different business units, we had to approach it a little bit differently to show them the value and really walk them through exactly what we would be doing and how little they have to bring to the table, which is essentially just bring yourself, your expertise to it. And that helped us align very well with them.
Awesome. Did you have something else to say, Olivier?
No, I mean, Tina is totally right. And if I can just add up to that, get them involved from the start. Even before, don't even start your initiative without involving them. Get them in the meetings from the beginning, the initial meetings, and then they will tell you how they see that and what are they are talking to our customers every day, so they know what the customers are looking for in these presentation, in these and how to replace these one-to-one presentation that they used to do. So you got to put them from the start, getting their buy-in by getting them in the meetings, and then after that everything will flow and will go smooth with them.
It's basically like collecting the requirements from the sales team. What do you need? We'll deliver it.
Awesome. All right, so I've got one more question here for you. Looking overall, like everything that you guys have kind of set up here, ramped up, what would you say some of the key or crucial pieces from the Pardot side, features, functionality, to create this workflow and to make all of this possible would be?
So for me personally, it's the whole data flow. Before we had Webex connected to Pardot, I would just get Excel spreadsheets all day long that you have to clean up, you got to organize it, you have to import it, then you have to get it into the right campaign and do all of this stuff. With the connection, with the native connection and how everything is streamlined, it just made it so much easier. No more manual upload, right? Everything is just streaming through. And the fact that Pardot lets us copy everything means that I could just copy an automation after automation or form after form and just switch out the campaign. So this webinar is going to go into this campaign to this rep. And everything else is still intact. And it just made the turnaround time so fast. We would have never been able to run 60 to 80 webinars a week. Like that's like all day long webinars if we weren't able to do this copy paste and had this connection that streamlined everything.
Awesome. Did you have something to add, David?
Yeah, I just want. I fully agree with you, Tina. The integration with Webex and Pardot is great because it's for us super easy. And I only would like to add that also all the follow up emails that the integration creates, it's super easy because you can send the reminders, the follow up, the thank you emails, everything automated. Before of that, we have to create it separate for each webinar and was a lot of work. So with the integration, this everything flows automatically and it's great.
I think everybody on this session can feel your pain for having to duplicate and redo and setting up hundreds and hundreds of webinars. Awesome. So thank you guys for joining us today. It's been a great pleasure and everything for having you guys here. If anybody has any further questions, feel free to reach out to the Sika team here in the event platform. Otherwise, I will see everybody later today. Make sure we have our awesome closing keynote with special guests coming for a fireside chat. So see you guys all later. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.